What's up everyone, Nick Peroni here, and today I am going to show you exactly how you can crush it this year in Q4 with dropshipping the same way I've been crushing it all year and will continue to crush it using the strategies that I'm going to show you in this. This is going to be like a Q4 starter pack, but not just for newbies really. I'm also going to be breaking down some strategies with the way that I run my ads that can help you do things like scale to over $700,000 in a single month. This stuff continues to work and I want to share it with everybody now. So first I want to take you inside a brand new store. As you can already see, look at that conversion rate. Absolutely fantastic, right? 8%. And this is, well, so just so you can see, the numbers are small right now, but obviously, as you can see, it's super early in the morning right now. It's like, as I record this, it's 2 a.m. basically. So we're only talking about the first couple hours of the day. Yesterday, this store did over $2,000 in sales. Now look, I've had much bigger days than that, up to, 35, 40K a day. But I'm showing you this because what's impressive about this is if we look at the last 7 days, you'll see this store was just started less than a week ago. And within 1 week, it's already doing $10,000 in sales. So that is a fantastic conversion rate as well, as you can see there. So I want to walk through first some ideas of what you need to understand, some context of how I'm able to do this over and over again and why this works so well. And then we'll get into actually, I'm going to show you inside the ad account as well, so you can see like what's going on and exactly how I'm doing this and using my strategy to get these types of numbers. So anyway, now I am, funny that this ad would show up down here, right? I am drop shipping products from China. Which still works. I'm using a private supplier. I'm going to give you access to this private supplier if you want. With this private supplier, I'm able to get better prices on most products. More importantly, though, I'm able to get faster shipping time. They have premium shipping lines to the US and all major European countries, basically all the major countries, right? Including Australia and Canada. And also, with this private supplier, I am able to custom package products with basically kind of private labeling, right? I'm able to get my logo on the package. The next step, of course, would be to get the logo on the product, which is possible as well. You just need a good supplier to do that. And this supplier has a beautiful app. So it's all simple, and I'll give you guys access to that so you can have access as well. But anyway, a couple things that matter, right? Number one, you may have heard me talk about this before, but it's super important to mention. High perceived value, okay? That is so important to understand. And the reason is because if you notice on here, my average order value is $60, right? That's super important to know, because a lot of people don't have success with dropshipping or e-commerce in general when they're using Facebook ads for traffic, simply because they're selling products not at a high enough price to have a margin, right? I like to only sell products that have a margin of $25 or more. This product has a margin of $35, okay, after the cost of the goods plus shipping. Facebook ads, you're going to see with my strategy, I mean, you can be getting cost per purchase under $20, but it's difficult and very unlikely when you start to scale. Your purchase, your good cost per purchase, healthy cost per purchase when scaling would be like in the mid 20s, okay? So like if you're not selling a product with a higher margin than that, it's going to be difficult for you to make money on the front end, right? I'm not saying you can't make money on the back end, but most of us, what I'm going to be showing you, right, the difference between what I do and like what a lot of agencies do when they're working with an established brand is they're working on very long, complicated back end funnel type stuff because it's a brand, right? It's a different strategy. What I'm showing you is how you can start making money fast with a product, with a video, and front end sales, right? So that is 100% possible when you have high perceived value in the product. Now, high perceived value is stuff that can do a couple things, all right? It can solve a problem, right? If you have a problem for a big audience that your product can solve in a unique way, then that's going to be high perceived value to them because of the outcome, the problem that it solves, right? High perceived value can also be like confidence. Okay, intrinsic value. Basically, it's something that makes them feel better about themselves, or quality of life, right? They're kind of the same thing to me, but anytime a product improves quality of life, improves confidence, these are high perceived value. That's why makeup has such a high markup, because it's in the beauty category, right? It increases the confidence of who's wearing it. It gives them a higher sense of self, right? Quality of life. However you want to define it, it doesn't really matter. It falls into that category. And so products like that are always going to have high perceived value. Now, in Q4 especially, we have to add a category here, because Q4 is a little different, right? Q4 becomes a lot about two things: trends and gifts. Trends and gifts, all right? Because 'tis the season to give gifts, right? So there are a lot of different types of gifts that can work in Q4 based on like family, for example, is a huge niche, and you're targeting the gift giver in this niche. So it's like husband to wife, for example. There's so much stuff in that category, right? And it's huge because no matter what, husbands are going to buy gifts for their wives every year without fail, and multiple gifts usually. So like those types of items, jewelry, for example, Shine On, okay? I'm going to be doing some content with Shine On soon, because they have a lot of great gift ideas that you can use in Q4, okay? POD can work very well for that kind of stuff. Now, also, and toys, right? Toys work as well in Q4, because almost everybody has some sort of kid in their life, whether it's their own or it's a niece or a nephew, that they buy a gift for. So toys can be very valuable, high perceived value in this time of year because of the need to get gifts, okay? And then there's also trends, right? Going into the cold season, into the winter season, there's a lot of trends that are happening with the weather, with just the overall season, different things that come along. That's why apparel is always huge in Q4, because cold weather apparel has high perceived value, right? More so, I would think, usually than hot weather apparel, right? Like when you're talking about a coat, for example, or a hoodie, these are high perceived value items that can sell for a high average order value. All right, so that's some context you need to understand, first of all, is going into it with a high perceived value. Now, the other thing I'm going to say, and smash a lot of the old guru stuff out there, including, by the way, some of what I used to teach, is that the general store method does not work as well as it used to, okay? I'm not saying that it can't work anymore. It can, but it's harder to get this method to work these days, especially as a new advertiser coming in on new ad accounts. Facebook and Shopify, I mean, Shopify doesn't really care, but it's just a lower quality method and this idea is testing, right? You test products, and I'm not saying that this method doesn't work, because it can work, but I'm just giving you the context of exactly what I'm doing. And at the end, I'll even tell you if you want to get more information on it, where you can get more information on it. But the way that I am going now is with the one product format, okay? I build one product stores. Well, my team and I, okay? So one product stores, and this is all because the higher perceived value in a one product store. Now, I know some of you are like, well, then if you're not testing products in a general store, how are you finding the products? And that is an entire formula that for a different video, right? I've already worked on that. I have a partner now, myself and a guy named Clark. You may have seen him from one of my past videos. We have put together a whole system of what we do here for the one product formula. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. But I'm just putting in context now everything that I'm about to show you, because to me, this is one of the reasons of this working so well, right? Is because the one product formula helps to build higher perceived value on the store with a very branded approach, very micro brand approach to the product that you find. To be able to create high quality content around that product. Now, this is not necessarily a new idea, right? Every every major advertising network in the world, what do they do when they have an offer that works? They move it to a long form sales page, right? Like that's not really new. Any high performance marketer or advertiser is familiar with one product sales pages, okay? But it's not talked about as much in drop shipping because of this method, this general store idea that's been around for so long. And I've made a lot of money this way. I've helped a lot of people make money this way. So I'm not saying it doesn't always work. I'm just saying that what I like to do now is focus on one product stores because they have a much more trustworthy, higher perceived value than what people are typically used to when you think about the consumer from Facebook. And what they're typically used to when they click an ad and what they see. So that's what I'm doing here, okay? And I like that, and I think it helps create higher margins on your product to sell more. And ultimately, I think this is really the goal anyway, if you're testing with a general store, to eventually move it into a one-product store. So even if you're testing here, that's fine. I just like to start here because I have the resources, I have a team, and we build out these one-product stores kind of like a factory to set them up and launch them, and they continue to work. All right, so that's the context of what I'm doing. All right, now I want to talk about how you do this and make sales quickly. Okay, like how are you able to start from zero with a brand new product, brand new store, and only 4 days later be doing $2,500 a day in sales, right? And then it dropped a little bit to $2,300 and $2,000, but there's some fluctuation. We're still doing $2,000 a day, and already today it looks like it's going to be one of our best days because that number is way up from yesterday, as you can see. So anyway, let's talk about the method, because the method is still the same as what I've been teaching. So if you've seen my videos before, this will be somewhat of a recap, but with fresh numbers, so you can see that it continues to work. Because there were some people that were like, oh, Nick, your video, you made it back in March or whenever that was, one of my first ones. Like, first of all, like that's old because it's not. Or July when I did 750,000 in a month and made a video showing it. July and August was like 1.4 million in those 2 months, and people are like, oh, well, does it still work? Like 2 months is old or something. But yes, it still works, and I actually believe that this method will help me get to $1 million a month in November, which is what I'm hoping to do. So anyway, let's talk about the method, right? Testing with ABO $5 daily budgets. Okay, so I will create, since I'm doing a one product store, like I mentioned, I will create 2 campaigns, one to the homepage, one to the product page. All right, and within each one of those campaigns, I will be testing at least 10 audiences, right? So when it comes to testing, there's going to be at least 2 campaigns with 10 audiences in each of them. Okay, so 2 campaigns, 10 audiences. For those audiences, I am testing Facebook feed. What was that? That's terrible. I'm testing Facebook feed only. Okay, because that's just that's my preference. Okay, I like to test Facebook feed only. Not like I'll still do search and marketplace and things, but I don't test Instagram or audience network when I'm testing, because I just, I test them. Well, I never use audience network because I think it's garbage, but unless you're a mobile app advertiser. But for Instagram, I'll test that separately, just again, because I like to isolate things. Makes it easier for scaling, in my opinion. So 10 audiences, Facebook, straight for purchase, right? Always optimize for purchase right from the start. If anybody says otherwise, I don't know why. And of course, I like to have audiences that are 2 million in size or more, like broad interest audiences. Facebook is super smart these days, and you can test broad. It doesn't matter. Now, I do $5 per budget, right? These are ABO ad sets, meaning ad set optimization. They're not CBO campaigns. ABO, okay, ad set optimization, or yeah. So, and then $5 per day as the testing phase, okay? So this is how I'm structuring it. Now, you could go super aggressive and test 4 campaigns if you wanted to from two. Like basically, I'm doing this because I'm setting one up for the homepage and one for the product page. Okay, and the 10 audiences are generally all the same. Okay, and I'm putting them all in one ad account. Now, what you can do though, if you want to get super aggressive, is you could do this times 2 ad accounts if you have enough ad accounts. All right, because that can help you go even quicker. And what you'll find, believe it or not, some people will be like, well, why wouldn't you just, but believe it or not, you will see different results in different ad accounts. Okay, so like you'll see that I'll see, say, one audience in one campaign. So look, two things to understand here, and this just goes why we test a lot, right? Number one, between the product page and the home page, even testing the same audiences, you will see sometimes an audience works for the product page and doesn't work for the home page, or vice versa. So that's why I do campaigns to both of them, because it's almost like creating more audiences. And then you'll also see for ad accounts that an audience may work in one ad account but not work in another, and vice versa. Right, and so I don't typically do this, but with this store, I almost tested it by accident, because on very day one, launched this product, got sales immediately. Like within the first couple hours of launching, sales are coming in, CTR was through the roof. I was like, this is amazing, it's a winner. And then of course by noon that day, Facebook shut off my ad account. And I was like, so I deal with this stuff too, just like everybody. It was in review for 3 days. On the 4th day, I was like, you know what? Screw it, man. I can't sit around and wait any longer. I feel like I'm just losing money because I know that this product is a winner. And so I recreated everything on a new ad account and launched it. And then sure enough, as all of those ads were approved on the new ad account, Facebook finally came back and reinstated the old ad account. So I was able to, I had both ad accounts running. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to let them both run because I have enough ad accounts, and let's see what happens. And so surprisingly, and I'm going to show you inside one of the ad accounts, surprisingly, you'll see that stuff works differently across other ones. So sometimes it's always good to keep that in mind if you have multiple ad accounts, that you can use another one to test and see if you get better results or different results or whatever. And it can be helpful in scaling too, right? So with one, I mean, look, no matter what, just by the way, just to keep this in perspective, like no matter what, just with one ad account, this store would already be doing $1,000 a day. All right. It's doing double basically what it would be doing. Like with the store I had before that did $1.9 million in 6 months, that was 2 ad accounts as well. Right. And so sometimes using the 2 ad account, now it was only 1 ad account in the beginning, but eventually I set up a backup ad account. And so some of the spend was going through a separate ad account. Right. And so same thing probably with this store is I'll have 1 ad account that does the most of the heavy pushing on the scaling, but I'll still have another ad account as well, because it's always smart, if you have enough ad accounts, to have a backup ad account. It's sort of a limitation to how many stores I can run at once if I want to have a backup ad account for every high scale store. But it's worth it, because like I want to make sure that I can make the most money as possible from a store. To me, and Facebook these days, you just never know, like sometimes with them, if they're going to shut down an ad account and stuff like that. So I'm sure an agency owner would probably tell you that not to do it that way, but you don't have to do it that way for this strategy to work, right? It's just something that I like to do to be a little bit more aggressive. So right now, really, I'm testing 40 audiences for my product because I want to be super aggressive on it moving into Q4. Okay, so now this is what the setup looks like, right? So now let's look at an example inside the home campaign here. Okay, so when we look at this example in here, you can see, let's stack it by results. All right, you can see I'm testing at $5 a day, just like I told you, and I've been running these for about 6 days now. So as I said, it's been less than a week, and the results are coming in, right? So you can see here, 3 purchases, 3 purchases, 2 purchases. All of these will very likely hit a 3rd purchase within the next day or 2. And then we got some that are kind of straggling down here. Some that will probably get turned off because they didn't have any purchases yet. And then, of course, I'll go back to testing more audiences, right? Because in the testing phase, really what you're looking to do is just find like a solid 5 to 10 audiences that you can start scaling, right? Because eventually, of course, it's kind of a race to build your lookalikes. Once you build your lookalikes, they can start to really help you push bigger numbers. But with this, this is how you can start to really jump off very quickly by testing a lot of audiences across different campaigns, homepage, product page, right? So this is the homepage where those audiences work. And then this is the product page where different audiences worked, right? And so this one has 4, and then again, we have a bunch that have 2 that will very likely drop into their 3rd purchase very soon because it's only been a couple days of testing so far, right? And so that is the same strategy that I just outlined for you, okay? And then the next step is when one of those audiences hits 3 purchases at a profitable ROAS. Oh, wait, hold on. First, let me also add. So I'm using a video ad, of course. Anybody not using video for dropshipping products is crazy. Using a video ad, of course, and this is going to be the same video, just with and the same ad copy. The only difference is homepage is obviously the homepage link, product page is the product page link, right? So same video, same ad copy being used in the different campaigns, but it's technically a different ad ID because there's a slight variation using the link, right? So I'm using that, okay? And what was I going to say here? Engagement campaign, right? So the other thing that I do for the video, for you'll see 2 other campaigns in there, is I set up the engagement campaign as well. All right, so these are conversion campaigns, obviously, that are optimized for purchase, but I'm also setting up engagement campaigns because engagement helps bring down the overall cost on your ads, okay? So engagement is important. Obviously, it helps bring in views, it helps kickstart things, and it's just good. So no matter what, I create my 2 ads first in each one, and then after I create the ad, I take the ad ID and I set it up as an engagement campaign as well. For $5 a day, same thing. $5 a day, and I just let it run for a few days or as long as I feel, because if everything's overall performing well, right, like with this engagement campaign, it's not getting any purchases, but I'm willing to let it run because, like, why not? It's bringing in traffic that might get retargeted to buy, and it's getting views on my video. So I'll let it run for a while, especially if the store is profitable, because I'm only spending $10 a day. Actually, it looks like I'm spending more than I thought on this one. This one's running at $11 a day. That was not intentional. You need to be careful. Sometimes when you set up the campaign, Facebook will mess with your budget. Even though you'll try to set it for 5, Facebook will set it to its default setting of 11 for engagement or 20 for conversions, and you have to go back and change it. Anyway, so that I do that as well. Now, speaking of cost, I want to shatter a myth for you right now. Shatter a myth about CPMs, okay? Because if we look at this in my custom view, right, you're going to see some CPMs that are kind of high here, right? Now, they're not super high. The engagement helps overall bring that down, but they are like a little bit higher than most people would want to see, some of them reaching in the 30. But look at the CTR, right? The CTR is fantastic, so my cost per click is still fantastic. Let's look at this one as well on the CPM. Look, this one, and that's strange, right? Because these are the same audiences, but same video. The only thing different is the page they're being sent to, right? Even though it's the same product, but on the product campaign, CPM's much higher, right? So my cost per click is naturally a little bit higher here, but overall it doesn't matter because my CTR is so good, my add to carts are good, and ultimately what you really care about is your purchase and your ROAS, right? So as long as you're getting purchases that are at a profitable ROAS, then that's what matters the most, right? So that's what's important there. When you see the purchase conversion value and your cost per purchase, all right? So this myth about CPMs, right? There's a lot of stuff going on out there like, oh, Facebook ads just aren't working for me because CPMs are so crazy. CPMs are so high right now. And that's true. CPMs are higher right now because of election. This is US only, by the way, US only traffic. So CPMs are higher right now in the US because of US only traffic. Because of elections in the US and also because of the time of year it is, right? But you can still be profitable running your ads with high CPMs if you have a fantastic video ad, right? It all comes down to putting the right product in front of the right people at the right time. And when you do that, even if you have CPMs, you can still win because you'll have high CTR. And if your store is converting, then you'll have good cost per add to cart and good cost per purchase numbers across the board, okay? So shattering that myth right now about the CPM, all right? So that's everything that's important in on the testing phase, okay? And remember that when it comes to this, the way that I'm looking at my ads is the way that I've always done it. All right, you can see the ones that are shut off here, they're shut off because even though they were getting, like this one, for example, really great CTR, good cost per click, this is what I look for, right? CTR above 1% at least. When you're getting CPMs that are higher, your CTR kind of has to be around 2% or more because, with a CPM of $33, even though a 1.22% CTR is good, it's expensive cost per click because of the higher CPM, right? But when you're up around 3%, even if your CPM is high, your cost per click is still actually pretty decent. So I look at this one, for example, 3% CPC under $1. But the problem with this one is I spent $19 and there was no add to carts, okay? So the first thing, when I'm looking at testing and you're looking basically at day one is going to be your CPC, CTR, right? And these are metrics you look at for when to shut things off. So if this is going to be the numbers, generally I go with 1 and 1, right? I like to see my CPC somewhere around $1. So that could range, from 50 cents, which is great, to $1.50, which is a little higher. And then CTR 1, but I don't want to see under CTR. I don't want to see under 1 on my CTR. I want to see 1 or more, with 2 being good, 3 being fantastic, right? If you're seeing CTRs 3% and above, then that's usually a sign that you got something pretty hot for that audience. So those are the things that I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at CPM. I mean, yeah, it sucks if your CPM is high, but I mean, if I'm looking at these because these are what matter. And I'm willing to let things ride at a little bit higher. You see some of these are a little bit higher, like 169, 159, but it's okay because, I mean, look at this CPM. That's crazy, right? It's really high, but overall, I was still getting add to carts and I'm still getting purchases, so I'm okay with that. All right. So that's what I'm looking for on day one, and I'm shutting ads off that don't meet this criteria, okay? So if I see like I have a cost per click of $2.50 at the end of the day and my CTR is 0.7, then I'm going to shut it off because it's not working, all right? Now, day two, a lot of people say day two, but it's not always day two. It's kind of day 2 to 4, depending on your margin, all right? Because one of the things that you look at next, if you're getting good CPC and CTR, is you're going to start looking at your target add to cart cost, okay? So your target add to cart cost is based on whatever your margin is. So if you have a $35 margin, all right? Let's say that's your margin. Generally, your margin is your target cost per purchase, okay? So that's my target cost per purchase, $35. The way I look at target add to cart is half of that, okay? So target add to cart then would be half of my cost per purchase. Okay, so in this situation, I'm giving you my real margin. So in this situation, my target add to cart is like $17 to $18, right? So that's why that's not necessarily on day 2, okay? So I'm letting it test longer because at $5 a day, I have to let it run for at least 3 to 4 days to get to my target add to cart cost to see if it needs to be turned off or not. So in this situation, you can see this ad set here, which was doing well and was getting a good CTR and a good CPC, but for some reason it wasn't getting add to carts, right? So it just wasn't working. And the funny thing is, this audience may work in another campaign or another ad account, but on this one it wasn't working. So I turned it off because that's just the way it is, right? I'm not just going to let it keep running because then it could just end up continuing to waste money. And when I see all these other audiences have add to carts, I know something is wrong here. It's not working. All right. So I turned it off. Okay. So that's when you're making your second round of cuts. And then your final round of cuts is really based on, I would say, day 3. There's some overlap here because, again, it depends on your margin. Your final round of cuts is like day 3 to 7, that first week, which is going to be based on your target cost per purchase. Okay, and I say to 7 because, like, for me, $35 margin, as long as I have these, as long as these are good and this is good, then I will let an ad set run all the way up to $35 to see, I'll let it go for one. So I'll let it run all the way up to $35 to see if it gets a purchase. And if it doesn't, then that's the last cutoff point, is when it reaches the margin, I turn the ad set off. Okay, so that's how I walk through the testing phase. That's how I've taught people to walk through the testing phase with ads for a long time, and it continues to work very, very well, as you can see. Now, let's talk about how do you go from this testing phase to start making $1,000 a day quickly, okay? So the way that you do that, let's move over. The way that you do that is by what I call my CBO jump method, all right? Okay, and this method is something that has been working really well. I have several people that have sent me messages, and probably way more people that aren't even sharing with me, of how well this method works. All right, so basically, out of all of our test audiences, right, we have all these audiences, 1 to 10, however many you're testing. Like I said, I'm testing at this point way more than, I'm testing like more than 40 audiences, because there was more than 10 in each campaign. It's like almost, it's like 15, I think, in each one. And I still have more audiences I'm going to test as well. Okay, so what you're doing, though, is you're trying to isolate what works. Okay, so when you find something as an audience that has 3 purchases or more at a profitable ROAS of at least 3 times, okay, profitable ROAS, then what you're doing with that is moving it into its own CBO campaign. All right, so I call this the CBO jump method because it's I like it because it's low risk, high performance, right? Because you're already proving what works at a small budget, and it's not guaranteed to work when you move the audience into a CBO, but it does a lot, and it's high performance because you've already proven it to work. So if it doesn't work, you can always just try scaling by budget on the ad set. That's fine, or duplicating several copies of the ad set within the ABO. But I like doing it this way, and it's been working really well for me and for others as well. I just had somebody recently actually sent me a message on Instagram, said I helped them make $28,000 last month just by using my CBO strategies. So anyway, when you have it right here, right? So like example, this one, it's got multiple purchases, and you will see the purchase ROAS is 8, okay? And all of these ones here are lined up and getting ready to go. And I like to wait for 3 purchases just because it shows me at least some consistency, right? But as soon as I get to 3, I'm getting ready to make the jump. So what I do then is very simple, right? Like you select it, and when you select an audience, you'll see this button duplicate here becomes ready. So I'll duplicate it into a new campaign, CBO campaign, right? And I'll put 5 copies of the audience in there and duplicate it at a $100 budget. So it goes into its own $100 CBO with 5 times copies of the ad set. Identical, right? I'm not changing anything. As you can see, I'm just duplicating it. Now, the only thing I will do, when you go to create this, right? When you go to create this, you can set a minimum ad spend for each ad set. All right, and I will do that, and this is something I borrowed from my friend Depeche, who helped introduce me to how to use CBOs correct, and then I kind of created my own blended strategy that works super well to scale products in any niche or any product. Doesn't even have to be drop shipping, by the way. So anyway, like minimum ad spend, $10. Okay. Now I only do this the first time I do a CBO because I want to make sure at this point I haven't proven the CBO yet. So I want to make sure that each ad set gets a fair chance to spend before Facebook tries to start pushing the budget all towards one or the other. All right. So minimum ad spend at $10 is what I'm setting for those. Now, if you want to, what's up with that? If you want to do a different value than 100. The reason I set it at 10 is the formula. This is Depeche's formula. Basically, you're taking the entire budget, all right, budget divided by number of ad sets, okay, and then you're taking that and dividing it by 2. All right, and that's how you're getting the minimum ad spend idea. So when you take $100 and divide it by 5, you get 20. You divide it by 2, you get 10. All right, and that's where that's coming from. $10 minimum ad spend per. I don't set a maximum, just the minimum. And then publish and let it run. All right. Now, people always ask me, they're like, well, okay, what if they don't all work? They're probably not all going to work. The reason we do 5 copies is because when you're doing audiences like I am of 2 million or more, then you have lots of different pockets of that audience, all right? So this is a whole 2 million size audience. Facebook is just going to start randomly in this audience, try to find, people that match your objective. So you're giving yourself more chances here, basically, because the goal here is to quickly move a proven audience to a higher budget. If you were to try to just change the budget on the $5 ad set to $100, you probably would see terrible performance. Your cost per purchase would jump from $7 per purchase to $70. You would get terrible. There would be a massive jump. Okay. Doesn't work very often, which is why people scale gradually on the budget. But when you do it this way, you're automatically setting it up at a higher budget with 5 copies. So Facebook is going to go out and start looking for those, and the minimum ad spend is going to make sure it spends fairly to set you up for success, okay, and try to get good cost per purchase. So that's why we do it. I'm not expecting all 5 copies to work, and I will use the same exact rules that I talked about over here to shut off those CBO or those ad sets in the CBO campaign that are not performing well. The only difference is you're going to get your feedback data much quicker. So within day 1, I'm shutting off campaigns that are not getting target add to cart cost at $17, right? If an ad set spends $17 on the first day and didn't get an add to cart, then I'm shutting it off. So you're going to get a quicker feedback. So the days don't apply as much here, but the rules still apply for which I'm turning off the different ad sets inside of there. So that's the reason behind that. All right, and what the goal is here, obviously, is to find as many of these as possible and move them into this $100 CBO, and then turn off the ad sets that are not working in there and let the ones that are working optimize. Okay, so Facebook should find a few that do work, and then you can turn off the ones that don't and just optimize the full budget for the ones that do. All right, so as we can see here is an example of one of those campaigns that was just started brand new. All right. So it's only on, it's been running for 3 days now, actually. And you can see two of the audiences or two of the ad sets were turned off. One because it did get add to carts, but by the time it spent $28, it didn't have a purchase. And so I decided, turn it off because I have three that are getting purchases. Why focus on one that's already spent $28 and is not getting a purchase, right? And then, of course, this one got turned off even earlier because by $12, everything else had add to carts, but it didn't have an add to cart. So clearly I was like, all right, plus it had the lowest CTR, the highest CPC. I was like, you know what, let's cut this one, okay? And then the other three I let run. Again, you can see higher CPMs, but also higher CTRs. And in the end, overall, really good cost per purchase on this product, all right? And I will do this over and over again. There's only 2 running in this ad account right now. There's more running in the other ad account. But here's another example. This one, I have all 5 still running. This has been running for 2 days because they all have purchases that are profitable. They're all doing good, actually, across the board. And so I haven't needed to make a decision yet. Now, obviously, this one is doing the best, but there's really no reason to turn these ones off because they're all getting purchases, right? So I'm just going to let the entire thing run. So that's what you're looking for here. Okay, and my initial phase of what I'm doing is I'm trying to find as many of these as possible. This strategy is alone is enough to get people to 3 to 5K a day if you're testing enough audiences that are here. Obviously, this is only going to work with a good product and a great video ad. If you have an okay product and like you're getting a sale here or there, but your CBO campaigns are not working and you're really not finding many audiences that work, I mean, more than likely that's just an indicator that your product is not that strong. Maybe it was okay enough to get a couple random purchases here and there, but it's probably not going to be a product that you can scale, all right? And so you want to go back and focus on the high perceived value products like I talked about. And also remember that sales come from the store, not from the ad. So the better your store is, then the more this is going to work for you, which again comes back to the one product formula that I'll talk about a little bit more at the end. So that's the beginning phase, right? And then I do the same thing again with the Lookalike campaign. So eventually, once I have, it all depends for me. But generally, I like to go, like, once I have at least 300 purchases, okay? That's when I'll start creating lookalikes. Now, I'll create my custom audiences as soon as I know I have a winner, because that, you can set that up whenever you want. So custom audiences, and I'm doing the standard events, right? Custom audiences. Doing standard events from your view content, add to cart, initiate checkout, purchase. Okay, those are your standard store events. Standard ad events, I'm doing engaged ad, and also clicked CTA, right? So I'll create custom audiences for these. And then video ones that I'll do are video views. And I'll do one for 25% up to 95%, right? Because there's one for each one. And 95. Okay, so these are the custom audiences that I'm creating. And with all of these, eventually you're going to be able to create lookalikes 1 to 10%. All right, so all of these are eventually going to be what build your lookalike audiences. And like I said, I wait until I have 300 purchases here, because I know once I have, this is your very bottom of the funnel, right? So it's kind of like if you have 300 purchases, Facebook recommends, you don't even see it until you have 1,000, so you have to go off your store. But if you have 300 purchases, then you have more of every one of these also, and you'll also have enough engaged, and you should have like, at least 100,000 video views at that point too. So you can start creating some pretty strong lookalikes, especially if you're only advertising in one country. if you're advertising in multiple countries, then you might need all at once. You might want to get more purchases because more data from each of the different countries. But for me, that's what I'm looking at. All right. So these are, because then you'll have lookalike 1 to 10% that you can create for all of these. And so that's going to end up being, you have 4, and then 5, 6, you have 10 audiences. All right. And so you have, 10 custom events and 10% for each. So you end up with 100 new audiences that you can test here. And I'll do the same thing, right? Testing the 100 audiences at the, now with lookalikes, depending on how strongly you want to, like how aggressive you want to be, there's a slow method and an aggressive method. The slow method that works really well is you can start them at $1.50 a day and launch all of them. And then again, you're optimizing the same way, same rules, right? That I'll turn them off as they go. Just takes longer because it's only $1.50 a day, but it spreads it slower and it forces Facebook to really get some crazy purchases on these. But if you want to move faster because it's Q4 and go more aggressive, then you can just start them at $5 a day. And same thing, we're identifying the ones that work, turning off the ones that don't. And when we do find one that works, right, when we do find one of these that works in all of your audiences, we just take those and we move them to their own, what was that? It's not a dollar sign. Move them to their own $100 CBO campaign, same way that we talked about before. Optimize the CBO, and so the goal ends up, being that you have all these lookalikes, right, that are coming in, and you have all your interest-based tests over here. Not just interest, behaviors, demographics, whatever you're testing. But I just mean like your, so I guess a better way to phrase that would be all your testing audiences over here. And then you're putting those in there as well. And then you just end up with this funnel of CBOs, right, that are all running at $100 a day. And then your goal becomes to start scaling the CBOs. So for me, I like to let a CBO run for 2 to 3 days just to make sure it's doing well. And then if it is, I will duplicate it to a higher budget. All right. So the budget jumps I like to go to are $250 and then $500 and then $1,000. Okay. Now I like to duplicate it because I know that Facebook is coming out with a rule where they're saying, you can only have a certain amount of ads. So in the future, I may just have to raise it. It's not going to matter, by the way, for any haters out there. It's not going to change my method at all because I can just raise the budgets on these CBOs if I want to. The reason I like to duplicate is simply because I find that I have more control in the performance if I duplicate to a higher budget. That's why I like to do it that way. Because then I still have the original running and then I can duplicate to a higher budget and it'll either work or it won't work. But the only time I will raise the budget is if the duplicating didn't work or if it did work and these start to die out. Like I've had a situation before where I had an audience that worked at every budget and I was just letting it run at all of them. And by the way, that's not where it stops, right? You could keep on going. You could keep following this idea of doubling the budget up until your risk tolerance is done. But anyway, so I had one that was working at a bunch and then for some reason stopped and it stopped working. And it was actually only the $100 one that was working. And it was still performing amazing. And I know that there was still reach left in the audience. So I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to raise it to $1,000. So I just jumped the budget on that one to $1,000 and it worked amazing. So it can work either way. All right. But I like duplicating for now because I find it gives me more control in what I'm doing. And it becomes a lot of campaigns running, but it's super simple to look at, right? It doesn't take a long time. It's very easy to, and once it's optimized, it tends to stay optimized. So you don't really need to do much with it. Okay. So this is how you start pushing the big days, right? Like every store of stores is going to start at the level of doing $1,000, $2,000 a day, and then you're going to scale to those bigger days this way when you start pushing the budgets higher. Okay. And so that's basically in a nutshell, that is the way that I plan to take this store 2 big months for sure. 6 figures this month, and next month I'll probably be doing an update, show you guys what kind of numbers this store does, because I think it has really scale potential to push it very hard, and I'm going to do it the same way as I'm showing you. And of course, I have my more advanced CBO strategies as well. One that I call the CBO stack strategy. This is a different way of stacking your lookalikes. Basically, you'll take the events that you have, each one, so like view content, for example, and this is after they already have like 1,000 events on them, for me personally. And then I'll create like a 1%, a 3%, 5%, 7%, and 10%, right? And I'll do this for each custom audience, right? Do this for each custom audience that I have. So for all 10 of them, I'll create all these different audiences, and then I will put them all right into their own CBO. So each one of these will become an ad set in the CBO, and I'll set the CBO for 250. Okay? And so that's a way of getting creative to be able to start stacking your lookalikes in a different way and start scaling, because this works really well. Again, not every audience may work, but I'll keep the ones on and let it optimize for the full budget. And then, again, scale same way, 500, if it works, 1,000. Right? So, and I start this out at a bigger budget because they're broader audiences. That's the whole purpose of the CBO stack strategy. Diversifying your CBO or your lookalike audiences in the broader audiences instead of just testing them alone, so that you can start hopefully pushing higher budgets with those as well. And then I have the CBO cost cap and target cost strategy. All right, these are manual bidding strategies where I will basically set a very high. I'll take any interest I have, any audience, I should say. I don't do this with the lookalikes generally because they're not big enough. You need a big audience for these. So I'll take any audience I have that's like 10 million in size or more, and I will put it into a CBO campaign, and you can test either one of them. Target cost is where you are giving Facebook an average cost per purchase that you want it to be around. Cost cap is where you're giving Facebook a number and saying don't bid over this number. So nuanced a little bit differently, but using them for the same overall effect to try to control the bid in the auction, to use higher CBO budgets with more control. Right, so this might look like something like this: a CBO that you start at like $2,000 to $3,000 a day daily budget. Okay, but I only do this when I have good data already from before. So if I know that my average cost per purchase on this audience over time, the average has been, say, $25, let's just say as an example, then I know that my bid should be around there. My target cost per purchase should be 25, and my cost cap is going to start at 25, right? And so the way that I have an entire video that breaks this down inside Ecom Empires. The way that this video works, this strategy works, is basically you're going to create like 10 different ad sets of the same audience, same audience, duplicated the exact same way each time, 1 to 10, right? And you'll put duplicate of the video, like, so the video that's working, you'll put 2 of them in there, just because that way at a higher budget, that I just, it seems to work better that way, even though it's the same video. Okay, and then you set whether you use cost cap or target cap, you set the bid amount different for each one. So if my average is 25, I would start at 25, and then I would work my way up to, I guess the highest bid would be 35, right? And then I would see which one. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. I start 5 under. So if my average is 25, I would start at 20, and then I would work up to 30. So because you're going to be playing around looking for where Facebook locks in. And usually you'll find that you can get a very controlled cost. So it might be 25 on the nose, it might be 26, 27. If you're too low, Facebook's not even going to spend your money, so it doesn't matter. You're not risking anything there. If you're too high, Facebook will spend your money, so you do need to watch the higher ones, because if it starts spending your money quickly and you're not getting any results, then you want to shut it off. But the idea here is that you are looking for the sweet spot, whether it's on the nose or it's 26, in this example, 26, 27, 28, and Facebook will generally lock in, and then your purchases will be super consistent at that price. And it won't always spend the full budget, right? Like, it kind of depends sometimes on the audience and different things, but it will spend super consistently, and it's a way you can control high budgets by playing around with this. That was just a quick, I have a video on this that you can find. That was just a quick introduction to it. The last thing that I'll mention that works really, really well with the one product store, or just stores in general, all right? And I'll include a link for you to get access to this app if you want. Let me just show you the app, okay? All right, the app is the Vitals app, okay? So this is the app that I'm using. By the way, I typically use the debut theme. We tried Debutify on this. I don't personally like it, but it's not worth switching over. And I don't use we're not using any of their paid features. We just wanted to see what the theme was all about. But anyway, look, the Vitals app is amazing because it gives you all of these features, all right? And I'm showing you what I actually use, and I will include a link here. Yes, you could go get this from the Shopify App Store, but if you use my link, you can actually get an extended 45-day free trial with a percentage off as well. So I will include the link for you to use that. Because this app, there's really no reason why you shouldn't be using it. It has everything you need. It even now has visitor replays so that you can go and watch what people are doing on your store instead of needing to download Lucky Orange and pay extra for it, right? Up to 5,000 per month, and I've already used it and it works well. Facebook Pixels, this is fantastic for installing a backup master pixel. And also now, if you're opening up a brand new store, Facebook tries to make you connect to their app, which is not a good idea because it's basically giving them access to all of your information for each store that you do. So I don't even use the Shopify integration anymore on new stores. I use the Facebook Pixel, which I'm using on the store that I just showed you, right? Product reviews, of course. I like to use recent sales pop once that it can be kind of gimmicky on a general store because you see all kinds of different products, but I find on a one product store it works really well because everybody's looking at and buying the same product. Cart reserved timer, yes. Content protection, of course. Inactive tab, you're seeing all the ones that I use. And then volume discounts. This is the one I want to show you that is actually something that you should be doing, and it works really, really well with a one product store. Actually, let me go back to the dashboard because you can see here assisted sales assisted sales 25%, all right? $2,700 worth of the sales right now are from the volume discount, which is when people go to the product page and it says, you can get a discount if you buy more. So buy 2 and save, 5% or 10%, whatever. Buy 3, save 10%. Buy 4, save 15%, whatever you want to do. And people will buy more. One of the best upsells of all time is selling more of the same product, especially if it's a product they really like. So that works really well, as you can see, and I highly suggest you do that. Now, it could work on a general store as well. I'm not saying it wouldn't. It can work on any product page, but it's really, really smart. So you're seeing Vitals takes care of most of what I do, and I use the abandoned cart app for emails. At a certain point, maybe I'll bring in Klaviyo and start doing a stronger email sequence. But when I get a store started, and I have a process, a factory kind of assembly line to move through quickly. Abandoned cart is very simple to set up 3 simple emails that go out and set up a thank you email and the exit intent, right? So those are all the things that I do. exit intent pop-up with a 10% discount offer. And then I set up the 3 abandoned cart emails as well, and set up a thank you email that goes out as well. So that is the whole strategy, guys, of everything. Now, I've mentioned one product stores a lot in this one product formula, so I'm just going to drop one last thing in here for you. I'm going to include a link under here that is for a different free training that I did, and if you're interested in it, it's basically a free training webinar that I did that explains the one product formula. Okay, I find that it works super well, and in fact, so well. In the last 6 months, I did $1.9 million in sales with just one product. And that's what I'm doing again on this new store that I'm sure will also be a 7-figure store as well. And so this works super well. And I want to show you the whole one product formula. And exactly how you can get access to it, because I've created like an actual one product formula and a training for it, and basically we'll show you how you can get access to see like the inside of a one product store and actually see everything that I'm doing, and go really in depth with it, and be part of a private coaching group that I started as well to help people do this. So if you want to see more about that, then there will be a link underneath this video where you can get access to this as well to see the full free training. So that's everything. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of this, and that you will use and implement these strategies to crush it in Q4. Let's go make some money.